Hi, Chris here, and today I'm unboxing something a little different. It's not a tablet, it's not a mobile phone or a mini PC that I normally look at, but a rather powerful yet slim and light laptop, which is the MSI Stealth Pro model number GS63VR 7RF. Quite a mouthful, that model. So this has a Kaby Lake processor in it now, the i7 7700 HQ, which is going to be the new processor, the new quad core that's going to be in all the new gaming laptops from 2017 onwards. It has an Nvidia 1060 GPU in here. Now that has 6 gigabytes of RAM. My configuration has a 512 gigabyte SSD, which is in RAID 0, and 2 terabyte spindle drive for just backing up all my larger files and things like that. So let's have a look at this now in greater detail and unbox it. So as you can see, it has been double boxed. Hopefully it's okay. It's taken a whack on the corner from the courier company. I just cut these seals and try not to cut myself in the process. Okay, so that is really well packed. There's no way that it's going to get damaged from that small little knock there. It's completely wrapped up still, which is good. Okay, so on the front there's a new label there that just says 7th gen, the CPU, and the GeForce GTX 10 series. So let's get this cut open. And let's check this out. Alright. So nicely wrapped up. They put this felt package on the outside, and then you can see plastic as well. And you know what, that feels quite light for the kind of hardware that this is packing, which is exactly what I'm after. We've got this felt material. There is a warranty remove sticker, so if you're going to open up the internals, just be careful that you might actually end up voiding your warranty. So that's kind of odd that they put that on there. Maybe that's to stop the bottom of it from actually burning your lap. That's just a nice move there, probably they've done that. So just going to put that there for a second and have a look and see what else we have here in the box. This must be the power supply, perhaps. No, that's just my cable, so EU plug. In here we have, so manual, CD drives and something like that. If that's the drivers and they use the manual, why have they given that us a CD if this doesn't even have a CD drive on it? So not really too sure about that. Okay, so here's the power brick, and that's a reasonable size. I'll weigh that in just a second. It doesn't seem too big. Hopefully it doesn't weigh too much. So before I get to powering this on for the first time, I just want to have a look at the weight. So MSI claimed that this weighs 1.8 kilos. And no, my scales tell me that this is 1.979 kilos. So that's a lot heavier than what they claim. Why do they always do that? Why do they have to fake the weights of these things? And now the power brick. So the power brick and the cable, of course, because you need that, is an additional 721 grams. So you're lugging around about 2.5 kilos, over 2.5 kilos. So it's not quite the 1.8 kilos I was expecting, but overall it still does feel quite light, the machine. Looking at the ports now on the right side, we've got the differently located, oddly placed for some people, power button, which actually sits, it's recessed a little bit, so it's not sticking out. I hope I don't accidentally turn this on. I'm actually not bothered about the placement of this because a lot of people aren't thinking about what happens if you use this plugged into monitor. Then you want to turn it on and off without actually having to lift up the lid and then tap the power button right in the middle. At least this way, I think it's more convenient there. So we have a USB 2 port, Thunderbolt, HDMI, display port, and then DC in for charging. And that looks like a intake or exit vent there for the CPU or the GPU. On the left side, we get 3 USB 3 ports, audio jacks there. So we got the microphone and then a dedicated one with hi-fi, so good quality audio chipset on this, hopefully. The SD card slot, Ethernet port, which should be gigabit, And then of course that Kensington lock and another vent there. Along the back here we have what I would say would be the exhaust vents, wouldn't it? So the side must be the intake, must fire the heat out the back of it. And you can see it says Stealth there. Ooh. Now on the back of the lid there's that big ugly, I think it's ugly personally, MSI logo that sticks out a good 2 or 3 millimeters there. I don't really like that there. Why can't they just left MSI there and got rid of that dragon? Not everyone wants gamer bling on their notebook. So along the front here we have all the status LEDs, and there's a lot of them. How many there? 2, 4, 6, 7 status LEDs. And there's a recess in here so you can lift the lid up. Hopefully I can lift it up one-handed. Oh, and yes, I can. So that's good. So here we have a cloth on there just to protect the keyboard and stop it from scratching the screen in transit. MSI logos on that, get rid of that. And at the top there, there's a webcam, of course, and looks like dual microphones, or one's a microphone and status LED. I'll find out when I power that on. Matte around the outside here, that's good. And a anti-glare matte coated 1080p panel. Now, unfortunately, this panel isn't G-Sync. Now, they couldn't use G-Sync because they have to use the Optimus technology, or that graphics switching technology, whatever that's called. So you go between the integrated Intel GPU and then, of course, the Nvidia 1060. So here's a look at the keyboard. And this is metal here, the palm rest. Reasonably sized touchpad. I'll have to use that and feel how that works out in the end with the gestures and everything like that. So the keyboard, you can see I've got an unusual layout here. At least this shift key is a bit larger than normal on the Spanish keyboards. Because I live in Spain, I had to get the Spanish model. I wanted to get one from UK. Would have cost me about the same price, but with only a 128 gigabyte SSD and 1 terabyte hard drive. So that's why I decided to get this one, because the layout is relatively the same. It's still a QWERTY keyboard, but we get the N, they get accented N key. So it doesn't really matter too much. So flex, most importantly, how does that feel? That feels okay. Now I have used the Steel Series keyboards before on my GT60 I once had, and a GT73 model that I ended up sending back because it was just too big and clunky and heavy for me to travel with. I also wanted to mention too that this hinge feels really nice. Nice movement. It's nice and stiff. It doesn't feel like it's going to loosen up and end up dropping or anything like that. It's a good feeling, solid hinge. Build quality so far seems really quite good. Some flex down here, but overall there's no real complaints yet. A little bit of a flex right there. So I'm going to get it powered up now, but first I just want to give you a close-up at that keyboard. Sorry, not a close-up. I mean a top-down view at it. So you can see we've got a number pad, obviously, and the keys are a little bit smaller, but room. So if you want to do some work on this as well, and you don't like using the top number row, you've got those number keys there. Obviously, everyone at MSI must be left-handed, because they put the power plug on the right side, as well as the HDMI and everything else. So when you've got all those ports connected, and you're using your mouse, and you're right-handed, that's going to get in the way there. So not a very good design choice. Okay, so it powered on, and you can see that we've got a lot of languages here to install, which is what I thought would happen. We've got literally everything in Europe here. So this is the European model, but it's got the Spanish keyboard. I still have the English option there, thankfully. Now to comment on the panel so far that I've seen, I can't see any backlight bleed on it. Very nice looking panel. You can see the blacks around it. Very, very good. And yeah, I'm impressed so far. Looking good, the panel. For a 1080p, I think it's going to be really good for gaming too, because the 1060 is not the most powerful GPU out of the 10 series. So, having a 4K display on here, it could not run 4K games in Ultra. So, it's a better match, I believe, the screen to the GPU. So, disk drive, it isn't actually RAID, as I was led to believe. The listing on the site I bought it off said it was 2 times 256 gigabyte drives, but it's just listed as one here, Samsung MZVKW 512. And then we got, of course, the 2 graphics cards there, switchable graphics between the integrated GPU and then the dedicated GPU. Another couple of points of interest is the wireless adapter. So we got killer gigabit Ethernet and the killer wireless AC, which should perform really good. But I'll check all of that out in my full review of this notebook. So here you can see there's the quad-core 8-threaded CPU, the latest Kaby Lake one out. And again, I will benchmark that. I will test out graphics. My main concern with this system here will be noise and thermals. I don't want any thermal throttling, and I also don't want this thing to literally cook itself, so I'll be checking that out. And I'm also not a fan of fan noise. So far, the most noise it's making at the moment is the spindle 2TB drive inside there. I can hear that spinning away. That's what's making all the noise. I don't even think the fans have come on yet. So free available space, 437 gigabytes, and then we get 1.8 terabytes on that spindle drive. So just ran a benchmark of the SSD, and you can see very good speeds out of it. That's blazing fast. That is really, really nice. That's as fast as my SM961. So I think it must actually be the Samsung 960 Pro or the 960 Evo, just the, not the retail consumer version, but the OEM version of it. Now I also ran Geekbench 4, you can see in the background. Now there's a lot of crap in the background. I haven't uninstalled all that Norton bloatware, all the other rubbish they pre-installed on it, so that might have affected the scores here. To me they seem okay, but I was expecting a single core score there to be a little bit higher. But again, that could be because I was running, well, I haven't uninstalled all that bloatware crap. I've just turned it on really, so there's no doubt all Windows updates running in the background and all this other stuff. So here you can see the size difference. This is my Core M powered Mi Notebook 12. And you see that for a gaming notebook, I find that size to be really acceptable, how thin it is, even if it's not as thin as MSI claim. Alright, that was a sample of the two front-facing speakers I think that it has in there. There's no sub in there. Clearly you can hear that. That is really disappointing sound quality, because I remember with my GT73 that I had, that had really good sound coming out of it with the Dyna audio, but this doesn't have Dyna audio on it, and yeah, it doesn't sound that good to me at all, so flat. So being a gaming notebook, of course, it does have a backlit RGB, 3 different zones that you can set up. You can set up modes like wave, colors, or make it all just one continual color, whatever you like there, but you can't actually configure individual keys. So if you wanted to set up the WASD keys for gaming with a different color, you can't unfortunately do that with this model. But it's not something I personally would actually be using. I'm just going to set it to red or blue or something like that and leave it at that. Okay, so this is just an unboxing and first impressions video here, and I must say I'm happy with the build quality. The screen looks really good. It's thin, it is light, but not as thin and not as light as MSI claim on their spec sheet. And I'm sure if I was to email them, if they even answer me, that is, they would come back and say, oh, that's because their prototype was that weight. Oh, their prototype was slimmer, blah, 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 blah. They've always got an excuse or some way of covering their asses for making false claims on weight and size, which I think shouldn't be happening. Why do they need to lie about this? It's already really quite a nice slim package considering the kind of power this thing is packing in there. So I will have a full review coming up later on, and I'll go through more benchmarks. Gaming, of course, I will test that out thoroughly. I know a lot of people are interested in that. And perhaps a bit of video editing. That's what I have got this unit here for myself, is 4K video editing with Adobe Premiere Pro. And I'll also check out the thermals, fan noise, and anything else that comes up in my time using the GS63VR 7RF here with the new Kaby Lake processor in it. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope to catch you back in the channel soon, later on with the full review.